En dan komen we nu bij het PEPPOL-debat. Wij hebben daarvoor een aantal illustre sprekers uitgenodigd. En I'm glad to see that André Hodevik has joined us. The debate will be in English because our guest speaker is André Hodevik, Secretary General at Open PEPPOL, let's say the godfather of PEPPOL, joining us virtually from Norway. Hi, André, glad you could make it. We have two other guests, but I don't have to present them really. They're a little bit usual suspects in our eFa talks. Next to me, Serge Libert, project leader at BOSA and representative for the PEPPOL Authority in Belgium. And in front of me, we have Dirk Willekes, not unknown anymore neither, as PEPPOL expert and GS1 Belgilux member. So, e-invoicing in Belgium, in Flanders, equals PEPPOL invoice. That's the choice we made at the federal and the Flemish level years ago. We considered at that moment, and we still do, that PEPPOL invoicing was the cleverest, the most clever and the cheapest way to do invoicing. Do we still agree? I think we do. But we'd like to reflect on that a few laters further into the process. We'd like to reflect with these three gentlemen about the matter. So, André, I have the honor to ask you the first question. So, in Belgium, we made PEPPOL e-invoicing mandatory for e-invoicing to the public sector. In Flanders, it's really a strong obligation. Do you think that was the right choice to do so? And you can enlarge perhaps in your opinion why it was, why you have a little doubt. And can you just put that a little bit in a more international perspective?
Thank you very much, Lian, for the opportunity and for inviting me, even if conditions do not allow me to travel to Belgium at this point in time. I think you made a good choice, and my reason for it is that the public sector in any country in the EU and even outside often constitutes a 15 to 20% of the GDP. So it's a substantial part of the economy in any country or in any region. So when the public sector in a uniform way are requesting from their suppliers that business are to be conducted in a specific way and the PEPPOL way, this sends a message also that goes beyond the suppliers to the public sector. We have seen that in other countries, and in Norway, where I'm from, we very soon, very early in our PEPPOL days, realized that we need to enable also use of PEPPOL in the supply chains of the suppliers to the public sector. So we got the question, and we answered it positively. If this could also, this way of invoicing and later also ordering, could be used business to business, and we confirmed that. And since then, we have had a huge growth also in the B2B use of electronic invoicing, even if it's not mandatory. So the signal effect governments are sending by mandating something for their own use goes beyond what the efficiency gains they can achieve themselves through this, which are also considerable, of course. But it sends a message and opens up for also wider usage. And this was also some of the intentions behind the e-invoicing directive from European Commission side, that this should spearhead also development in the B2B market, even if it's not regulating that. So yes, I think you made a good choice.
Andrea has a lot of suppliers in Belgium and public entities of the Flemish authorities are doing businesses with foreign countries, especially Germany and France. Can you tell us a little bit more about PEPPOL in France and in Germany?
Well, in Germany, we have a PEPPOL authority, the Office for IT Standardization, located in Bremen, and they are behind the Ex-Rechnung, which is also a EN 16931 SIUS, and they that is also linked with PEPPOL, and from federal level in Germany, it has been mandatory to do e-invoicing electronically, and if you are using a network, it's mandatory for this to be PEPPOL, and that entered into force in November last year. It's still an option in Germany to use email as a communication channel, and we haven't quite seen the big take up of real machine-to-machine interoperable e-invoicing in the German market, but we are seeing signs of this happening, and I think from the German PEPPOL authorities side, they are seeing that by promoting also use of PEPPOL and the use of the UBL syntax for PEPPOL in ordering and in pre-award phase of procurement, there is a bigger drive towards full implementation of PEPPOL, also in a wider scope than in e-invoicing. Of course, in Germany there is also Zugfahrt, and from what I understand now, the latest Zugfahrt version also have the Ex-Rechnung profile included as one out of many, and this is the only one compliant to the EN 16931. So if users then implement Zugfahrt and wants to send an EN 16931 compliant invoice, it will be Ex-Rechnung, although in cross-industry invoice syntax. But this in itself creates a simplification, but I think the longer term goal for the German PEPPOL authority is to support also UBL syntax, which is what you are using in Belgium, I think.
And in France, Andre, how is the picture in France?
Yeah, France is they don't have a PEPPOL authority, but for the French public sector, Chorus Pro is a key solution where basically all public sector entities have access to a shared accounting system, which also handles e-invoicing. And Chorus Pro is connected to the PEPPOL network through a access point, and it's possible to reach all French recipients through this. This is done through use of SIRET numbers and some additional information needed for the French version, and we are in dialogue with the French authorities and IFA that runs also Chorus Pro on establishing this as a country specific profile profile of PEPPOL BIS billing, and we are also encouraging French authorities to list all the, I think, up to 150,000 recipients that are available in Chorus Pro through an SMP, because currently there is only one listing for all these, one entry in the SMP for all these French recipients, and that is not best practice in the PEPPOL network, if I can put it like that.
Thank you, André. That brings me to Serge. I heard you talking about additional information for sending an e-invoice. Serge, in Belgium, we said SIUS in PEPPOL. No, we don't like that. Can you tell us about? Can you tell the audience what's a SIUS and why we have that point of view in Belgium?
Yes, the SIUS, we don't like that. I would like to relativate. I think that in the European standard, there is a chapter that is dedicated to the concept of SIUS. What is a SIUS? That's a core invoice usage specification. The norm is the core invoice, and there is a possibility for a receiver or a group of receivers to develop a usage specification, which is basically a restriction of the European norm to several terms and conditions that makes it easier for the receiver to automate the processing. And automation is at the heart of e-invoicing, of course. So there are legitimate reasons to use SIUSes. On the other hand, we cannot deny that restricting the European norm is creating an additional format. And if each and every player starts restricting the format, it creates a new fragmentation. Our experience before the European norm, because we started, as you know, we started before the European norm. We started in 2013 with a pilot project for the B2G invoicing, business to government. Our experience is that the fragmentation is a very important obstacle to the generalization of e-invoicing. So that is the main reason why we said, okay, we will not go for the SIUS for the time being, because it would be contradictory with our own findings. We are trying, it is also the finding why we went to the PEPPOL model. It's because it's a holistic and universal model for exchanging invoices and other electronic documents between any participant. So the SIUS, to cut the long story short, is an opposite direction to that defragmentation of the landscape, which we have experienced was a big hurdle to our program to generalize e-invoicing. Maybe I can add that in the government perspective, and we are here in the eFa talk more focused at the government side, you cannot really refuse an invoice that is compliant with the European norm. Even if you have a SIUS, which is legitimate for the automated processing, you must first receive the invoice and then reject it, which in fact does not make that much sense. It would be better to have a clever system that learns from the different patterns that it receives to increase its intelligent character and be able to cope with different patterns of invoices. And at a certain point in time, at a certain point in the maturity of all these systems who need to work together and cooperate, perhaps the concept of a usage specification can be used in a clever way to accelerate the adoption of invoicing and make the whole chain more effective. But I think that we need to go one day at a time. And for the moment, the most important part is reducing barriers, defragmenting, and also having a business case which is actually brought by the government. As André said, we are 15% of the purchases. That is a little bit the leverage effect to the rest of our community who also needs to get the benefits of e-invoicing. And the very last point, the Belgian economy is an open economy. So if we would have a Belgian SIUS, it would probably also directly affect our interoperability with the other countries, which is probably not a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dirk, can you What's your opinion on this matter? Do we need the size in Belgium, or do we have? What do you think?
Well, I think I support Serge's mindset. So, on the other hand, of course, also in the paper world today, we have some legal requirements that require us to specify some elements on the invoice. So that's for sure. For the moment, also on the paper invoices, this is not mandatory. It's perhaps some people mention, for instance, the CBE number. If we look at legal requirements, that number should be on the invoice. Even certain paper invoices don't have that number. Is that problematic? Yes, no, I'm not telling this. But when you reflect this to the world of tomorrow, we are already speaking about real-time VAT declaration, reporting and stuff like this. At that moment, you need to validate at supplier level if your XML, your PEPPOL file is compliant to European norm, for instance, and to Belgian obligations. So perhaps someday we will need some validation at source level. Of course, we won't go into the direction of sizes and stuff like this. But fortunately, André, the PEPPOL world has already a solution for that. And in PEPPOL, we have the possibility to add country rules. Some Nordic countries already do or use that kind of solution. They are testing on based on the supplier, the country of the supplier, if certain criteria are met. For instance, CBE number can be checked. And I think that to keep interoperability and compliance with PEPPOL on the one hand, and on the other hand, also conform to Belgian legal requirements, the solution might go into that direction. So we are aware of some extra validations that should be done at sender level. Perhaps lawyers and changes in law and stuff like this can combine the solution, but the country-specific rules are one possible solution. Certainly, thinking in what's ahead of us, what will the future bring us. Okay. That's my opinion.
Okay. Do you have something to add to that?
Well, I think that in the PEPPOL model, we have validation artifacts. The validation artifacts, they are supposed to be used by the sender. And in that point, we can indeed enforce additional checks. But the European norm is also including the legal requirements. So if we are compliant to the European norm, it is sufficient. So we don't need an extra layer. So I agree with Dirk that the SIUS has a certain role to play into this, but that is the PEPPOL SIUS that is used for this. But here we are going into technical complexities, and I don't think that it is really the point of this debate.
Okay. And in Europe, do you have an idea how other countries, surrounding countries, deal with it? Are there a lot of SIUSes emerging in Europe?
Of course, there are SIUSes emerging, and as Serge already told us, that complicates interoperability and so on. So, of course, when you stay at domestic level in Belgium limited, that won't be that of a problem. But lots of companies are doing international trade and stuff like this. So at some point, you have to send international invoices, to call it that way. And if you have to comply, on the one hand, Belgian legal level, and at the same time, perhaps foreign requirements and stuff like that, things get complicated. So let's try to keep it the PEPPOL way, the European norm way, the interoperability way, and that's, to my opinion, the future.
Okay.
Lynn, I think that you have an experience with some suppliers, international supplier, that proves that it's very important. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I can tell the name, so I won't tell the name. But it's a very long story of years of onboarding these international suppliers, and this is really the key here: to be friendly to international perspective, so that these players also can join.
We hear European norm, we hear PEPPOL. Just for the audience, André, are they equivalent? Because we say we do PEPPOL invoicing, and the European directive say, yeah, you have to accept the European norm. Just enlighten the audience about that, please.
Yeah, the PEPPOL BIS billing 3.0 is indeed a SIUS, as you have just discussed and explained. But I would say, unlike all other SIUSs that are on the list of SIUSs and extensions maintained by the European Commission, the PEPPOL BIS billing is for all countries, all sectors, and it is a valid implementation then of the European norm. It's also been used outside of Europe. What we need to take into consideration is that the EN was created for European perspectives. It is an implementation of a European norm, which is also linked with the European directive on invoicing in public procurement. So when countries, international actors outside Europe are implementing this, they end up in having some problems with the European VAT rules that are in reality hard coded into the EN. But I'm happy to say that when we entered into Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, and also in ongoing talks in Japan, we see that the core invoice, the information elements that are in the EN and that are also then in the PEPPOL BIS billing, these are shared. So what we need to replace and do extra work on is the business validation rules for how VAT is handled outside Europe. And so it shows to me that the PEPPOL BIS billing is robust, and that the EN it's built on is also a very good starting point. As Dirk is saying, the country-specific rules that can be applied to the PEPPOL BIS billing makes it even more robust, because it then enables us to handle if countries have national rules that goes beyond the European rules, which could be the case. Some countries have mandatory referencing to order numbers. Others have mandatory references to a national identifier because of validation purposes, as said, and so on. So there are legitimate needs to specify more in detail, and the PEPPOL BIS allows for that.
Okay,
thank you, André. I would launch a last question to all of you, but I would like to start with Serge. How do you see the future of PEPPOL?
How do I see the future of PEPPOL? Well, first of all, we see that PEPPOL is progressively adopted outside Europe. I think it's an important message, and it also echoes to the initial question to André about did we make a good choice? I think that PEPPOL, the model that underlies PEPPOL, is a very clever model, and it's also an IT innovation from a European origin. It's not so often that such an innovation gains traction at international level, so I think it's a very important message that this finding underlies. I think we should be very proud of that product from European origin that becomes progressively an international practice. From both our perspective, Federal Public Service Policy and Support, which is in charge of digital transformation. At federal level, we see in the PEPPOL model and the ecosystem that it allows to install a lot of potential to drive our future, our digital future. I think we all start to realize that this digital future, all these things about artificial intelligence and so on and so forth, they also need a very strong digital infrastructure that needs to be put in place. And putting in place that digital infrastructure requires a lot of collective action and cooperation. And PEPPOL is not only about standards, it's also about cooperation between disparate actors. That is the main strength of PEPPOL. And we, from a Belgian federal perspective, we will support and we will also see how we can implement that further to also support additional exchanges that only the exchanges related to the purchase procurement cycle. That is what I can tell about how I see the future of PEPPOL.
Dirk, what do you think about the future of PEPPOL?
I do perfectly agree with Serge, of course, because PEPPOL adds an international and a cross-sectoral point of view to that. And it's perfectly aligned in what we at GS1 Belgium and Luxembourg are doing already for a couple of years now. On the one hand, we have our sectoral approach in sector-specific formats limited to a certain country and so on. And let's call it, for short, the old way of working. On the other hand, we have the PEPPOL framework, we have the cross-sector, the cross-border way of exchanging data information, invoices, for instance. Of course, I see government also as a cross-sector exchange at that point. And we advise our companies, our members to follow the two-way approach. On the one hand, support the sector format you're working in, and on the other hand, support also the cross-sector format, in this case, the PEPPOL format, to support both formats. And to make it even easier for those who are only capable of supporting only the sectoral format, we made bridges between the two based on the same syntax mappings in the European norm. So we propose to our members they can support both and at their own pace move towards the international, the cross-sectoral approach. That's the way we go.
Okay. I suggest we give André the last word on André, what's the future of PEPPOL? Is it
bright?
Well, one could quote the B-52s and say it's a future so bright we have to wear shades. But looking at it more from a more systemic way, I think the last year we have started business development inside the Open PEPPOL as an organization, and the business development has been to also utilize the PEPPOL network and the PEPPOL invoicing approach also for tax reporting or for tax clearance models. And just by going into that terrain and trying to bridge the PEPPOL approach, which is really about efficiency gains for senders and recipients of e-invoicing and enabling a business process interoperability there, to also connect this with tax administrations, also getting their requirements for VAT and other indirect tax handling covered. is a huge step, and we see that a lot of countries have shown an interest in PEPPOL, also now outside of Europe, for in this context. So moving in this direction, because looking at the map globally today, you will see that there are some places in Europe that has a high penetration of e-invoicing, and there are other regions like Latin America that has the same. But the rationale used for and the reason why there is a lot of invoicing is very different. In Latin America, it's all about tax collection. So if we are able to bridge and encompass the European, call it that, efficiency focus with tax administration's needs to the benefit of senders and recipients of invoices, I think this is a major opportunity for PEPPOL moving forward. So, but we also are rolling out, and we are in dialogue in the US and with Japan, as mentioned, and other countries in rolling out, I would say, traditional e-invoicing and the core PEPPOL product. And as we see that the PEPPOL invoice is indeed robust across both sectors and regions, this is also a very important part of our future. So we have moved from 5 to closing in on 500 members in Open PEPPOL from in the past 9 years, and we see that growth continuing, and we see more countries bringing in PEPPOL authorities, and so yes, I'm very optimistic for the future.
Thank you very much, André. Thank you very much. Thank you also for your participation out from Norway. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.